All right, hello. Welcome back to EdSurge's live thought leader interview series. Thank you all for those of you who have been sticking around, and thanks for joining us if you're new. We are going to, as we've done in the past sessions here, we'll take questions, so be thinking of those as we have our discussions to kick this off. And we are joined this half hour by Beverly Oliver, Deputy Vice Chancellor Education at Deakin University in Australia. Thanks for flying out just to talk to us. Oh, and for being here at ASU GSB. But thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Jay.
So Deakin I'm excited to talk to you because Deakin has been kind of doing interesting things, and I've been kind of reading about it and watching it. But I haven't been able to get over there to visit yet. I hope to maybe someday. And I guess maybe we could start off by letting the audience know a little bit about Deakin's role in the system there, and just kind of remind us, and for some of us it'll be introducing us to your university and your place in the system there.
All right, so first of all, Australia, I'm going to assume everyone knows where that is.
Yeah, we got you there.
Yeah, good. So, in a population of around 23, 25 million, we have about 40 universities.
Okay.
So these are generally mostly public universities, in other words, funded by the government, a couple of private ones, but mostly it's large public. So in amongst those 40, Deakin is about the 6th or 7th largest, depending when you take the count. And it would be described generally as a middle tier and rising university. So it's 41 years old. It was founded as a distance educator for Australia. So it was founded to provide access to education for Australians who couldn't actually go to a campus. And as you would know, we have a lot of distance. Yeah?
Yes.
So it was the post model, right? It was the printing and posting materials.
The correspondence. Yeah.
Exactly. And then, in more recent years, we've of course gone to online.
Sure.
And I've been at the institution for coming up 7 years, and it would be fair to say that we've probably transitioned to the much more digital cloud learning. That's what we call it, cloud learning. So we have 60,000 students.
Okay.
They are basically studying in 5 campuses, 4 of which are, if you like, located or on-site campuses, some large, some small. But we've declared our online campus a campus, and we call it the Cloud Campus. I'll tell you why. Because we've been doing online learning for many years. To get the staff to go, well, we have to do it better. Well, yeah, whatever. We've been doing it forever. So we wanted to use the word cloud because we didn't want to just keep doing the traditional LMS, put the slides in there, capture the lecture, beam it out to people, like what I call the electronic post office in the sky. So
it's, in other words, very similar to correspondence, but with some buttons in there.
So we're redesigning all our cloud courses for cloud first. Cloud students first. So the legacy model is that we capture the on-campus experience, broadcast it to the off-campus students, which is what we used to call them. It's deficit. We don't want that. We think digital is its own kind of thing. So of our students, 1/4 of them, about 25%, are completely online. They may live in Victoria near the university. They live all around the world, mostly in Australia. We have a growing and small cohort that we're growing at FutureLearn. That's the UK MOOC platform.
Yes,
so
it's
we're
kind of like Coursera, but it's
exactly.
It's spun out of Open University, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that primer for some of us here. I wondered, one of the things that you've done. So actually, could you say a little bit more about the cloud campus and what those courses are different? So if they're not I think I can picture what you're describing as the kind of, the sort of standard online course that developed over the last 10, 15 years. But then what if you're trying to get the professors to do something different, what does that look like?
Okay, so what we're doing in the new model is doing what a lot of other people are doing, quite frankly, which is taking the course over here, surrounding the academic with a team of experts, learning designers, producers, capturing all the material. But I guess what we've learned a lot by using the FutureLearn platform, quite frankly, because what we're doing there, it's designed for social learning. So it's not designed like a usual LMS, which is just post it there, it's quite static.
Right.
Or it's just discussion forum. I always think people lose the will to live in discussion forums because they don't discuss, they actually read and type. It's what they do.
Yeah.
So, what we want is much more socially engaged. So small steps, bringing the student along in a digital narrative and engaging at every step of the process. So we're working with the academic staff, but we're also putting more coaches, mentors, tutors around them to engage with the students as well.
And so, so it's just getting to that next level of thinking, not just that online chat room. No. Now, another, I think related in a broader sense of that I was really interested in is the Deakin Genie, which I don't know if those some people in our audience probably know it well from having seen it in the press, but in case they don't, could you tell us a little bit about the Deakin Genie effort, which is a few years old now, right? And,
it's just really being rolled out now.
Right.
So it's been in pilot for a while. So a few years ago, we adopted IBM Watson.
And this is the one that won on Jeopardy, right?
That's
Watson's the AI computer
that's the one.
system.
So we started off with Watson, and Watson was really designed. We thought it could augment the learning experience for all students by being able to answer questions 24/7, 365. Which, if you've got a digital campus, that's what you need, or one that spans a continent as well. So that was our first foray, and then as the whole artificial intelligence thing has developed, this particular piece of software, this implementation, is building on a more sophisticated level. So this one is actually purpose-built for the university, and it's interacting with a learning management system, which of course we use, and other things around the campus. So it's like Siri, but for Deakin students, and it can tell you, for example, what's coming up next, where you need to go to your next class, the room's been changed, here are the notes that you might need for your study, that sort of thing.
It's your personal assistant.
It is. It's like a Deakin personal assistant, exactly.
And I mean, watching there's a video on your website that I watch, and it's kind of got this fantasy of a student cooking dinner in their apartment or dorm or something, and the laptop is open, and then the Deakin Genie is saying, I've got your new video lecture just dropped. Do you want me to show it now?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess how much is this going to move into the classroom part of the instruction? There makes sense to have some of this. You can imagine a sort of student portal with an Alexa interface, which sounds like part of it. But it seems like you guys are even pushing further into having it be part of the student's experience with classes, or no? Where's the line?
No, we are, absolutely. So, we really believe that, I just said 25% of our students are fully online. And I often say 75%, the other 75% act like they are.
Does that mean they don't show up for class? No, you don't.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it actually does mean they don't come to class, because I think all students are going to operate this way now. It's like, I often use the analogy of banking. I used to walk into a building, in my country it was between 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock. I had to line up, talk to someone.
That's probably universal. We get that here too.
Yeah. But now, we're not going to go off the ATM, or now I pay my bills on my watch. Or, I tap and go. So even though the bank would maybe like me to, I don't think they do, but I'm never going to want to go back and actually have to do my banking the other way. So I always think the way we live is the way we want to learn, and that's the way students want to have it. So we know our on-campus students are just as interested and engaged in these things as the fully online. In fact, maybe even more. I'll tell you why. Because the fully online cohort tends to be the more mature age, part-time, working, caring professional.
What used to be called non-traditional students, but
correct.
now
Exactly. So, the mum doing the dishes at the sink is possibly one of those. Or that student could, in fact, be an on-campus student doing a traditional undergrad or postgrad degree, but they're all time poor. So, we live in a lot of our students live around Melbourne. There's traffic. They tell us, well, I have to drive an hour and a half each way just to come and listen to this. So actually, you know what? It's also digital. I'm going to do it from home.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's okay. But the key, that's good because it's accessible. But what we need to be very mindful of is what I just described as social learning. We need to keep them engaged and make sure they stay engaged. So it doesn't just become like watching TV.
Right. Or, Netflix and they're talking to them. That's the trick, right? Is that one of the things that I talked with one of your colleagues who's working on the Deakin Genie, and they were telling me about, the kind of it's not there yet, but the vision of trying to even have this be a personal assistant, like a TA almost, or be even more engaged in the future. But to me, that does raise a lot of questions about what the role of this, how much is too much technology, maybe in that situation. And I guess, is there some concern that that this could kind of either replace teaching, or I don't know if there's any faculty on your campus concerned about Deakin Genie maybe?
No, I don't. Well, I don't think so. I'd go back to the banking analogy. Really, what I want to do is for my money just to be safe.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to pay my bills and buy things and just keep it it's got to be like electricity and running water. It's just there. And I get where you're going with your question about, what is the role of a teaching staff member and so on. Will technology take over? I don't think so, because at the end of the day, if really good learning is happening, and students are getting outcomes and they're realizing their life goals, including their career goals, we're all going to be happy. Because I don't believe the role of the teacher will ever be entirely taken away, because at the end of the day, education is not like banking, because it's a very personal connection between the student and what they're trying to learn with their peers and with the guidance of someone who knows more than they do. So I suppose at its heart, if you can emulate that and take away any of the clutter so that I can see what I need to learn next, I can get feedback, I can get responses, I think it can be really augmented, and it can be even better than a fabulous teacher, which is what we're aiming.
I guess the one of the things that I was struck by is that you're developing the Deakin Genie and some of these other tools, and your colleague was saying it might even be a competitive advantage for the institution to have these things. And of course, it strikes me though, because in the past, I think there's been, or at least in a lot of times I talk to colleges, there's been this culture of, let's share all our practices and have every. It's not a sort of competition of trade secrets. But I'm not saying you say it as trade secrets, but I'm curious what your view is about how technology might be more of a differentiator in the future. And do you think that it will be where maybe Deakin has this and other people don't, and other people have some other technology that we don't even know of yet that's going to be,
and they will have. So I think what we're all trying to do is use the opportunities in front of us, technological, to actually make this a more brilliant education. That's what we're trying to do. Are we competitive? Of course we are. Everyone is, because we are competing in a much smaller market than you are here. So yes, we are competitive. Do we want our students to have the best? Yes, we do. So, and of course, anything that we create, we've invested in. So we need to get our return on that, obviously. We want our students to have it. But at the end of the day, I think brilliant digital, really for this generation, is hygiene. This is how students expect things to happen, right? So they're surrounded by this stuff. They have, in sometimes, very low expectations of universities and higher education institutions, because it'll be clunky, it'll be boring, it'll be whatever, it won't work. Well, we shouldn't expect that. We should deliver the way they live. We should let them learn. But I think the compelling proposition, I think the competitive thing is where we need to deliver on students' life goals, because this is a costly exercise in time and money. Most people come to get a job, keep a job, or get a better job. That's just how it is. If they had all the time in the world, I'm sure they would love to sit around and learn for the sake of learning. I think we are, in fact. We're learning all the time. No one's walking around without a gadget in their hand. And maybe they're playing a game, which is also learning often, or maybe they're reading The Economist or whatever it is. I think we are doing a lot of learning, but I think it's the employment and career and life goals that are the competitive advantage. So you have to deliver the digital, but it's the employability that just pips that, I think.
Well, we have a question, a video question from the audience. So we're going to pull that up here. It takes a second, so bear with us for the. We'll get the person on stage here. It's Alex. All right. It's almost there. Hey, Alex, thanks for joining us.
How's it going? Thanks so much for having me.
Great. Do you have a question for our guest?
Yes. Going off of the topic of human interaction, I love online resources. I love online learning. A lot of online learning resources, though, have, like Udacity and Udemy, have forums or Slack chats so that their students can stay connected and they can share resources and they can help each other become successful in these courses. What kind of tools or features does Deakin have to help students engage with each other?
I think it depends on the platform we're using. So we have a traditional LMS, which is, basically the discussion forum. So I'm not pretending we don't still use that, we do, but we're always looking for new things to use. I suppose what I might call out, though, is the degrees that we're offering on the Future Learn platform offer us a tool which we don't have in the traditional LMS, which is, as the student is learning, the screen has a learning step, and the students are actually commenting to each other live in the window there right next door. So you can see the comments right there rather than going over somewhere else to do the discussion forum. That's just a little example. I can't actually name any other particular tools for you, but I guess what we're trying to do is encourage the students as well to use your own tools. Students have always come to class, done whatever they do with the teacher in the class, and then gone to the cafeteria or down to the mall to do whatever they wanted to do by themselves, and they still do that. So, we know our students go and gather on Facebook, for example. So students will find their own way of interacting as well. We encourage that.
Thanks for your question, Alex. Appreciate it. I think we have a text question here that'll pop on screen. I'll read it aloud for those just listening. How do you think issues such as privacy, something like what Facebook's struggling with, and we all know, will have an effect on online learning and on online classrooms in general?
Interestingly, I think we've got open digital environments now, and we've got closed environments. I know that we have a strong policy around not surveilling students, but using their data with their knowledge in order to help them, if you like. So privacy, I think, is going to be absolutely essential, and I think that's one of the things that you will lose students if it's just like we're seeing on Facebook. I think we've grown up with a generation of people who think they don't care about privacy, but I think the recent breaches in Facebook show us at large as a human society, we actually do care about it, and that it is, as I saw someone say the other day, it's a basic fundamental human right. So I think all institutions will need to be really, really careful and to make sure that we don't go too far, because none of us likes it when it's creepy. Even, if I'm walking around with my phone and LinkedIn sends me a text to say, oh, did you know 3 people in your network are near you? Well, it's like, no, go away.
How did you know that? Exactly. You say to LinkedIn. Yeah.
So, and no, we mustn't do that. So it is absolutely key. It's core to it's the contract between the student and the institution that we keep students safe in all ways, physically, digitally. It's all part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's one of those things that does open up, right? When you have Deakin Genie, and not to pick on that one in particular, but as colleges, I think right now I am seeing a trend with some of these AI tools and possibilities of data sharing across silos within the university that used to be silos. Now they're sharing. So there is this centralization happening, just like in banking, just like in all kinds of things. And now I think the Facebook is just one example of what have we gotten ourselves into, the potential lapses that could happen.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's an interesting time and challenge for anybody that deals with large sets of data.
I will throw out one challenge, actually, and it's one that worries me a little bit around the predictive analytics.
Yeah.
There is a great temptation, and I'm speaking, quite broadly now, but we have to be careful not to stereotype people.
Right.
So we often describe students, I think you call them non-traditional, we would call them first in family or low socioeconomic students. You cannot assume that person is not really, really clever or not really, really tenacious in their learning habits. So sometimes I think we've started using predictive algorithms and things like that, where it's heading towards typecasting people. So, we all know that the most comfortable, supported, bright, engaged student can have a life event that all of a sudden means they have to stop going to university. Right. So, you can't assume anything's going to happen just because of your postcode or the various algorithms that we apply to. I think we need to be careful.
So that's a risk. just as this trend of the there was one too that we wrote a recent article, when a nudge becomes a shove, how people could take these well-meaning or well-intentioned nudges or little email reminders of, hey, you're not doing as well as your peers, to be discouraged, for instance, if it's not done well. So it might be in how it's applied. It comes down to.
I guess I'm thinking of demographics.
Yes.
So, I'm happy to share with you.
Advising type of things.
I was a first-in family student. I should never have got into university. I did okay. I got in there, I did it, I was fine. So it's about presuming Someone said it yesterday. Actually, it was at the dinner last night. The soft bigotry of low expectations.
Yeah.
Someone said that, and I thought that was a really beautiful way to put it.
Are there? I think there are sort of all these issues that come up when we talk about these tools, and it very quickly gets to these socioeconomic issues you're trying to solve when you're trying to expand education. And I appreciate that. I wonder if there are other things you're seeing here at this event. And I will warn people, you might hear some noise in the background. We're both trying to ignore it, but we're sitting in this top floor of this area of the hotel, and there's a pool outside. We are not swimming in the pool, but they're setting up some sort of party clearly, and some music coming in through. But are there things you're learning or hearing here that have struck you, or trends that you think are important for us to watch in our last few minutes here of our conversation?
Sure, yes. I'm looking forward to some sessions tomorrow on micro-credentials, because we've done quite a bit of work in that space as well. And I don't mean just, selling one subject at a time. We've actually got a model of assessing and competency-based education, which is a bit unusual in Australia. And I think that's where the typical online learner will head. They will go to universities and providers who will assess them based on their capability now, rather than, putting them through traditional standard units from the get-go. I mean, credit for prior learning is one thing, but actually assessing people. I know you've got a couple of universities in the States who've been doing this really well. I think Western Governors and Southern New Hampshire.
Yes.
So we've been watching and learning from them, and we're trying to do something similar in Australia.
And it's an interesting one, because there's also been some controversy about Western Governors here, an audit from the Ed Department's Inspector General about whether there's enough contact with professors, but the very model, interestingly, kind of says, well, we don't, it's just a different, you have coaches or you have other people that are assessing the learning, so it is a different model. And so I think there's been some debate about whether that's, whether that should qualify for financial aid. So I think it gets back to these questions about how do you judge quality? How do you judge whether it's working well enough when it's so different? I think that's part of it.
I think that's the struggle for all of us, and I'll always come back to the learning outcomes.
Yeah.
If they're right, did the student achieve them? And did those learning outcomes take them to where they wanted to go?
Yeah.
Whatever that next step.
And that's tricky when you've got something new, right? Because you don't have that. You don't have the history yet.
No.
You don't have graduates yet, or you don't have.
But we've always been innovating.
Yeah.
Ever since people started teaching and learning, I think we've always tried to. We'll try something different. I wonder if that will work.
That's not the way people always view higher ed, but
no. Yeah, I know.
but I guess, you're saying it actually has happened despite that narrative of kind of slow moving universities.
Yeah, I think we've been innovating. I mean, we might use the same classified things that we've used. People say lectures, So but a lecture can be dull, deadly, dreadful, or brilliant.
Sure.
Now, probably which way most of them are, because the room is set up to get you to deliver, and not everyone's a brilliant presenter,
right? And
not all material is easily presented that way. So yes, we've defaulted to a mode of learning or teaching which is, I think, out of date, quite frankly, and not many people do it brilliantly, but at times people do it brilliantly. So I think you should use it when you can do it brilliantly.
Well, I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you again for taking the time to join us today
and
share your views. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks. And thank you all. This is the end of our block of interviews today, and we really appreciate you staying tuned and asking questions. And we will have another EdSurge Live in a month. We're doing these once a month, so we will not be in San Diego that time. We will be joined by Brian Alexander, and it's on May 15th at 2 o'clock Eastern time. And we will put out more information about that. But we hope you'll join us next month. We're going to talk about Brian Alexander, who some of you know does a different video series, much like this one, called The Future Trends Forum. But he also has a new book he's working on about what he's seeing as all these, what's the future of education. So we're going to explore that. Thanks, everybody, again, and we'll see you next month.